Cool. So, welcome to the the seminar. Today we're going to be doing a a quick tic tac toe game in React, and hopefully the cat will not lie down on the keyboard again. But it's a cat, so cool. Do you have a quick introduction you want to do, Janice, and or should I just get rolling? Okay. Let's see. I want to share this screen. Cool. Okay, so if you want to follow along, there is a link here. I'll be doing this using GitHub Codespaces, which I believe you do need an account for. But if you're not already a student, you'll have a bunch of hours available for you for free on Codespaces. If you want to follow along locally, it is totally possible to do that. This will work just fine locally. Cool. Awesome. In that case, I'm going to get a code space running and we'll start spinning up this project. Now we get the uncomfortable 30 seconds where code spaces is doing whatever it's doing on the back end. Okay, there. It's actually working now. I say it's actually working. Nope, still has to run things. Okay, we're still in that uncomfortable 30 seconds. Cool. Okay. I just noticed that it ran the command that I was about to run. Our first step is I'm doing this in or because this is being built in JavaScript. The we have to basically install a bunch of packages or JavaScript that already or that will help allow this to run. Cat. It's going to be a struggle keeping the cat off the keyboard today, evidently. So first command, CodeSpace will do this for you already, is npm install. npm is Node Package Manager. Node is the JavaScript engine, the thing that's actually running our JavaScript for us. If you can stay there, cat, you'll be all right. Oh, she immediately is not staying there. And with this particular template, the next thing that you're going to do is npm run dev. This is going to run a development server. And allow us to actually see what we're doing. This is the bare bones application that you get when you start up a Vite or React application in Vite. It does a couple things. And by a couple things, I mean it's got a counter on it. You click the button, number goes up. We'll be getting rid of that. Cool. Before we actually start coding, let's think for a second or figure out for a second like what how the interactions that we're going to do or that basically we are going to need like a 3x3 grid. That grid is going to contain a a series of things that can either be an empty square, an X, or an O. So those things are probably going to be individual components. So we'll call those like a game piece or something like that. And then the overall application, we probably want our state management in there. So because we don't really want the board pieces to be authoritative over the complete application. Yeah. awesome. One thing that I did add to this, just as a, there's no good way to preview this. Um, actually, there is a good way to preview this. I brought along, or not brought along, cat. Thank you. I made a couple of things or pre-built assets for this. It's going to complain really hard for a second. I made these X and O's. So, nope, that is. Let's just do this here. I'll clear out all of this and this. Nope, that is not what I wanted. I wanted a style, just for display purposes. Second, let's hop over. Oh, I need to give this a width and a height, huh? Inspect. I'm trying really hard to. We do have the background image there. But it's not displaying. Oh boy. Give me just a second. How did I do that here? I did it exactly the way that I have it. Well, anyways, I've got some images. They're kind of hard to display by default, but there's an X and an O image. So let's let's start out by like roughing out what a game board looks like. Cool. Okay, so game board is probably going to be, or what the various bits of our game board are going to be. So we'll have like an H1, X wins. Oops, might help if I actually put the correct.
That's the victory counter.
Yeah, yeah, we're just doing a victory counter, I guess, example. Let's we'll do X wins, O wins, and then ties.
On the ties.
Yeah. Cool. And this should be an and M dash. Oh, 1 second. I'm just going to copy and paste an M dash. Because I can't remember the shortcut for an M dash off the top of my head. Cool. M dashes are just long dashes. We could also do something like this if we want to. Yeah, I think I like this better. Cool. Okay, so we've roughed up this. We'll go back and we'll build it out later, or build out the actual functionality. Um, do, do, do. I absolutely skipped a spot because I forgot to toss in Bootstrap. Uh, Bootstrap is a bunch of pre-built CSS. Nope. Getbootstrap.com. There we go. It's pre-built CSS. It allows us to do a bunch of. It basically allows us to not have to write a whole bunch of boilerplate. So let's grab this. I'm literally just grabbing this um, from the uh, quick start for Bootstrap, and I'm also grabbing that. Why is this broken? Parse error, unable to parse HTML. Because React cares about trailing slashes, right? Oh, I actually have to refresh this because that. Oh, I duplicated the closing head tag as well. Hey, cool. Okay. I'm going to do something to save my eye, or because I prefer it this way. This isn't a universal thing, but data bootstrap theme is going to be equal to dark, and that just gives us a default of a dark theme. Cool. I'm going to hop over here, and I'm just going to get rid of all the boilerplate CSS. Well, this is the index.css inside the src folder, and that just gets rid of the pre-built CSS. And then we don't need to touch index.html again. Cool. Cat. Cat, 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 cat. Okay, now we need a div.container for our game board, and I'm going to give it. Actually, I'm going to do a div inside this. Div.gameboard. So this is going to be where the actual game happens. We might want to move this into the container. I'm realizing that I should have added this to the configuration for this container. Cool. And cool. And I'm just filling this with some blank pieces that we haven't written any of the CSS for. Grizel, you're not allowed to be on the keyboard. Cool. We want to. I also want some O pieces, and let's have some blank pieces as well. Cool. Let's also get rid of this boilerplate. I guess I will have to Um, I'm just going to turn this into a flex box. That's flex.column. And let's align item center. And this is just a shortcut way to make it a vertical layout and to get everything centered nicely. If we hop over here and we actually refresh this, we can see that we have our H1, it's centered nicely. We have our game board, which has no dimensions. It's centered nicely. Cool. Okay, let's write some CSS. That is a slash, not a dot. Grizel, you're adorable, but please stop trying to hug the mouse. Cool. I don't know. Let's make this a width of 50%. I'm going to give it the same height. I'm going to use aspect ratio because I really like aspect ratio. And just so you can see it, I'm going to put a background color of, I don't know, 09C. I don't think 50% is big enough, so let's make it 75%. 75% looks good. Okay. Cool. So the game board we need to make the game board pieces fit in this like a grid. Um, there are a couple ways to do this. Uh, I'm going to use CSS grid because it's something that I've been really liking. And then grid template columns. Let's do repeat. Is it 1FR3? Nope, it is 1FR. I Cool. Repeat is just a function that there. Actually, that did it perfectly. You can see if I turn on the grid, um, we get this nice display of the grid. It might be kind of hard to see on your screens, but all these pieces are nicely laid out. Um, cool. So, this next piece of CSS, we want to okay. So if we look at our HTML here, we've got our game board, and then we've got the X's and the O's, and then we'll have some default styling for the game piece. So and I'm going to make that lowercase, assuming my cat lets me use my mouse. And let's hop over here. Cool. I don't know. Let's do. Actually, what if we do a border on the game pieces? So all the game pieces have a border. It's going to be solid. We'll call it 5 pixels. And we'll make this one I'm going to do HSL color. 180. Actually, we'll do 0, 0, 75. So that'll be kind of white. Style color. Solid 1 pixel. Yeah, that'll be there. Why did my border disappear? Because I added in the commas, because I'm used to that. Right? Nope. Just an invalid property value. Well, welcome to Googling 101, MDN, HSL. These need to be percent. Much better. Cool. We could do some additional stuff to get rid of the outer borders. Yeah, okay. Well,
The side border don't have 5 pixels. Oh yeah,
yeah. And also, yeah,
it looks
let's.
a little.
Yeah, it was looking really chunky.
Mm, but it's fine.
I
Oh,
think.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's not get too hung up on, like, if we have time, I'll go back and I'll remove the outer borders. That's going to require a bunch of like it would be like dot border dash see, there's 1, 2, 3. If I want to be really fancy, I could do it with rotations and not and only have to write 2 CSS classes. But we'd have to write like 8 CSS classes otherwise, or 8 CSS selectors. Um, and I'm going to actually do that. Let's do a background color so that we can just see them. This one is going to be 09C now. And this is going to be 90C. Cool. It's looking very vaporwave right now. Very, very vaporwave. But yeah, we've got a kind of we've got a starting point. Um, cool. Okay. Let's just copy this. Let's Control Z that, because nope. I managed to, in the process of doing this, copy the wrong thing again. Cool. Just a little bit more CSS, background size, cover. And then background repeat, we'll do no repeat, just so that cool. And now we've got our X's, we've got our O's, we've got some colors um, to make it more apparent what's happening. I accidentally hit Control F in there. But yeah, this is honestly probably about all the CSS we'll need. We've got stuff roughed out. Now we can start thinking about this as React components or as React stuff. So we've got some dynamic values here, 3 of them. We've got a count of wins, we've got a for X and O, and we've got a count of ties. So each of these, in terms of React, are going to be what are called states. And also, one second, let's make this 95% background, ground, position, center. Cool. I didn't like it touching the edges. Okay, I'm not going to get sidetracked anymore with this. So cool. We've got, this is probably going to be a piece of state. So, or each of these pieces is going to be a piece of state. So the way that we do application state in React is we start typing and pause so that we get big scary errors, but we use something called use state. It's a function that comes with React. We're providing it with an argument here. This is the default value of this state. And what this function does is it gives us 2 things back. It gives us something that we cannot change directly. It gives us a variable that is the current value of that. So if I replace X wins here, and then I change the state to cheat horribly because X obviously wins all the time, they go first. You can see that this variable is that. And then it also gives us a function that allows us to change that value and make sure that React cares about it. So we'll do the same for O.
I'm sorry. Is it normal that I can't see your screen?
Let me see what's happening with that. Give me a second. Let's stop presenting. Let's present again. Okay, is that better? Or did that
Yes.
fix stuff? Awesome.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Cool. Okay, so this is going to be O wins, and then this is going to be ties. Cool. So now we've got these 3 pieces of state where we can change them and they will change the state of the board. The next thing, and I just used a keyword there, is the state of the board. So const game state set game state is going to be equal to use state, and the board is a series of values. They're all going to be they'll be, depending on how we do this, they could be objects that contain some additional information or whatnot. But yeah, this will be what we end up mapping to the across this. And I'm just going to set this to let's do it this way. 1, 2, 3. So that our board state is the same. And I'm going to break this out onto multiple lines so that it is easier for us to read. Cool. So we don't have the stuff that we need yet to turn this into this whole board, but we're getting there. Honestly, we need a new component. We need to be able to actually, as I go and just make the code prettier for me, we've got a lot of repeated HTML here. All of these game pieces are repeated. So that's a pretty good sign that we can turn that into its own component. So let's do that. The way that we make a component in React is we just make a new JSX file. And I'm going to make this game piece.jsx. And with this particular template, one of the steps that we normally do, we don't actually need to do. In some other templates, you will need to import React from React. But in this particular template, you don't. So there are a couple of things just to get back to components. Is a component in React is a function. There is an older style component called class-based components, and there is a ton of documentation circling on the internet about them. But class-based components have a lot of weird intricacies, and I recommend that you don't use them because they're deprecated. They will be eventually removed from React. So yeah, let's make a component. Const game piece equals a function. React components have to return valid HTML. Thankfully, an empty tag is valid HTML. That's called a React fragment. And then finally, export. Yes, we need to export our component so that we have access to it from elsewhere. I'm just going to paste in this, and I'm going to hop back to our app.jsx. And let's see. First of all, I'm missing some semicolons here. I'm going to import game piece from /game piece. I use a lot of autocomplete, so if I do something and I go way too fast for you, do tell me. I will take a step back. But now we've got some bare minimum game pieces. We aren't going to have anything in them, so cool. Now, there are a couple of spots where our game piece. Go ahead.
Sorry, Shane. This style background image is this the image that you tried to import at the first?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see here. I'm
Oh,
importing this SVG, and it's turning it into a
I missed
fancy
that.
variable. That's completely okay. Yeah, the SVG images are in the assets folder. So, yeah. Cool. Okay. So we have a couple pieces or a couple places where these differ from the normal game piece. It differs here, and it differs in the style. So we need to be able to pass that in. And we can do that. We can pass information into React components through something called props or properties. Properties are an argument, or they're an object that's passed in as an argument to your function, because React is doing a lot of heavy lifting in the backend. I'm going to use something called object destructuring so that I don't have props.this, props.that. And yeah, I think calling that player will work nicely. So honestly, our first spot is, let's turn this into a string format, or a string literal, or string formatting literal, string formatting literal. And let's just add the player in there. So I did not click the right tag. So let's make a game piece here with the player is X. And let's get rid of the extra one because that's breaking it. There's this style tag. You know, let's just pass in the style. We'll pass in style as a prop, and then we'll handle that there. You'll notice that when I just add the style into this, it doesn't do anything yet. React doesn't really know what we want to do with that. It thinks style is just a normal prop. So we can do style is equal to style here. And suddenly we've basically reached parity with this. These need to become player O. We need to replace that. Cool. Okay, so we've got our game piece. It still doesn't have any functionality yet. It doesn't. It doesn't allow us to click on things, and the game doesn't know how to determine if somebody's win. It doesn't have a game flow, or doesn't have a game loop in it yet. But we have the ability to display everything that we need to, really. We can display our X pieces, we can display blank pieces, we can display our O pieces. So now all we need to do is set a game state. And well, actually, before we do that, let's make this reflect the game state. So let's get rid of that. And then we can do game state dot map. Map is a function that allows us to turn an array, or it basically allows us to take an array and make a new version of that array that is modified how we want it to be. So I'm going to do I'm going to make an object here that is just has a bit of, as a convenience. And 1 second, I need to Game dot. Okay, cool. I need this. This is just going to make it easier on me in the long run. Cool. Okay. So, we're going to take an argument called player and a second argument called index. And I'll show you why in a second. But player will be player. And just to make my life a little bit simpler, the backgrounds is going to return a background. So style is equal to backgrounds square brace player. So there. And again, let's break this out onto multiple lines so we can actually see what's happening here. Okay, so our map is doing a couple things. I haven't used this argument yet. Player is representative of an item in this array. So if I change this to O, you can see that the second element of that changes. If I change this to X, that changes. Cool. This background square brace player is just I made this object to make that possible. It just contains the style for the background image there. Cool. And finally, the reason that we need that index is this warning here. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop. React wants that so that it knows which element is which when you're doing this kind of thing. It doesn't show up anywhere really. But if we pass in the index as a key prop, it allows React to keep track of things better. And it gets rid of an error. Okay, so I'm hopping over here into this React DevTools. It's an extension. You can find it if you Google React DevTools extension or plugin. It's really great. I love it. It does a couple of things that are really useful, and it allows us to look at the internals of our application a little bit better. So we can see now that we have our game state as an array. We have our variable for X wins and O wins. I can update state on my own so that we can see this this happening in real time. I can I can make that an X. I can hit Control S compulsively, so on and so forth. Cool. So now we need to make it respond to our clicks. So first things first, let's clear out the board. Okay, so we need some function here, some on-click function that that does something when we do this. We're going to pass in an index because we need to know what was clicked. So, oops. Handle click, add our index. And additionally, the game needs to know who the current player is, which means that we actually do need one more piece of state. Okay, and I'm actually going to do this. Am I going to do this? Yeah, I'm going to do this as useState. So current player and set current player. Let's fix that. Is going to be another piece of useState. And X always goes first. Cool. So we're going to have to do one more thing, which is current player. Actually, no. Do we? No, we don't need to pass that in. We just need to pass in the index. Cool. Let's console.log current player. And then we'll set current player in this handle click, because when you click once, it'll cool. And all I'm doing here is setting up to basically flip flop. If X is the player, it sets it to O. Otherwise, it sets it to X. Cool. So if we hop over here, we can look at our state. When I click a square, nothing happens because onClick is here, but we never did anything with onClick. So first of all, let's break this out onto multiple lines so we don't have to do nearly as much scrolling. And pass our onClick event to actually be registered. So let's clear this out. And we can see that when I click on these, it toggles between X and O. And we have the beginning of interaction. Cool. So we have our current player. Honestly, let's also print the index so that we can see what's happening. Cool. Excuse me. Let's. Okay, so let's think about the rules of this quickly. So when you click a piece or when you click an empty space, you want to change that piece or the space to be your piece. So let's figure out how to write that rule. There's kind of an implicit piece here. When you click an empty space, so we want to, if game state at index is not equal to null, we want to do an early return because we don't want to do anything else there. So somebody just pressed my door buzzer quickly. If they press it again, then you'll probably see me jump again. Cool. So if it's if the if that place on the game board is not null, we don't want to do anything because we don't want people to be able to take over other players' game pieces. Because that's a completely different game. Cool. So our next step is we need to set the current board state to reflect that change. So we set game state to be our current game state. So I'm using a method on arrays called toSpliced here. This just generates a new array that you change or that changes an element. So what we're doing here is we're making a new copy of game state where we're changing the element at the index and only one of those elements, and we're setting it to current player. So hypothetically, we have the ability to it's X, so O, X wins there. Cool. So yeah, we can actually fill out the board. It doesn't tell us if we win. Like this has no concept of what a win looks like yet. So we should probably sort that out. Actually, let's do one more piece of state. And we're going to do it a different type of state. We're going to use something called useRef. Because we don't care if like this isn't going to ever change at a point where we care if it updates things. It's just we don't have to change this with a function, basically. So on a click, now we can actually, yeah. Okay, so if is done dot current, that's the thing with useRef. You have to interact with the current property of it, and I'll show you what this looks like momentarily. We want to set the game state to our initial game state. So if the game is done and somebody clicks, we just reset the board. We don't have a way to set is done quite yet. Give me just a second to grab a cough drop because I keep on coughing, so I might as well stop coughing. Okay, so if I press the magic wand here, we can see is done is equal to false. So at this point, is done would be set to true. Can I change? No, I can't change refs in this. And we want it to reset the board when we click again. And additionally, we want it to, when a win happens, to do that. So when a win happens, it'll set is done to true, which will interrupt this whole thing. Cool. So our next piece of, or our next hook, because you guys have seen a couple of them. You've seen the use state hook, which gives us values that allow us to update the board or update the application when they change. You've seen use ref, which doesn't update the application when it changes. And then finally, we're going to take that, and this is called use effect. Use effect is allows us to give side effects to state changing. So this one is going to run some code every time that use state changes. Or sorry, not use state, where that every time that game state changes. The first argument for use effect is going to be a function. This is the effect that happens. So I've already imported the use state from React along with use ref and use effect because I did that thing where I hit tab. Also, current player, Elaine, is it's just a value that tells the game who is who's actually interacting with the board. So it's going to swap back and forth between X and O. And then when the game is done, it'll reset to something. Or it'll just let the other person go. Cool. So this use effect, we're going to check to see if someone won the game here. Or if the game is a tie. Cool. Okay, so the possible wins on the board are a line, any of the 3 horizontal lines, any of the 3 vertical lines, or any of the 2 diagonal lines. As I proceed to fail horribly at drawing a line on a Tic Tac Toe board. So those are this line, this line, this line, this column, or this column, or this diagonal, which is kind of hard to see, or this diagonal. I cheated a little bit. I already made an array here that has all of the indexes. And if you give me just a second, I will make a GitHub gist. And I will share that with you guys so that you don't have to manually type this. There are very clever ways to check for wins with Tic Tac Toe, including one called a magic square, which allows for really easily checking to see if you win, to see if a game state for a player adds up to like 15, I think it is. But that is waving magic wands, and we're not going to really wave too many more magic wands tonight. There's a limit to the amount of magic that, yeah. But yeah, I've got all 8 possible wins here, and we just need to check game state to see if any of these are a win. So, and let's move this up here because this is something that's never going to change. And it's just going to, that feels more organized for me, I guess. Cool. Okay, so for let line of lines, we're going to iterate over all of the lines. Hi, Griselle. Yes, you are cat. No, you do not get to. No. Oh, Okay, cat, you will get cuddles and scritches in a bit. I'm almost done with this. Okay, cool. So, we need to see now who the winner is. And yeah, okay, so we need to see if any of these are full. So if line.every is a function that allows that if it runs a function on every element in the array, and if all of those functions or all those functions return true, then every returns true. The other version of this in JavaScript is sum, where if any of those return true, sum returns true. But yeah, so line.every. Game state at, oh, 1 second. This takes a function. So we'll do ID at the index because that's what each of those numbers are. So if the game state at that index is equal to X, then we want to is done dot current is equal to true. We want, nope, that's Python. True. We set it to true. Then we want to set X wins to X wins plus 1. We want to increment that by 1. So this is asking if X wins at some point when iterating, or in this, if there is a line of all X's on any one of these lines, then we say X wins. We can do the same thing for O. That's going to be line.every, except that we're going to check for O. These two lines will be basically the same, except that this is going to be O wins. O wins. And cat. Cool. Let's test what we have so far. Cool. X wins. O wins. And every time we increase this, we add that. That means that's not working. Oh boy. Let's Grizel. Hi. 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 You are cat. Okay. Cool. Let's look at this. So, is done is set to true. So that means when our on click, if is done dot current, oh, we never returned. We never broke out of this function. That's why. Okay. We need to move this to above that. Hi, Griselle. Yes, you are cat. You desire scritches and attention. And she is going to be an entire handful right now. Hi. Yes, I'm working. I'll pay attention to you in about 20 minutes. which is an eternity cat. I know. Cool. And then we need to is done dot current is equal to false, so we can play another game. Okay. Cool. The only thing that we don't have are ties. I just won. Again, how do I get a tie from here? I'm on X, so I covered that. I'm on O, so I covered that. I'm on X. Cool. Okay, yeah. Only thing that we're not handling is ties, or our ties. So that's going to be here. So we need another condition here. It doesn't need to be in here, but if game state dot every cell, if every cell is not null, 1 second, we need to return here so that this code doesn't run. What we want to do is done dot current is equal to true. Set ties to ties plus 1. We don't need a return here. Cool. So we O increments when we win. I'm going to be ties increments now, and we've got a Tic Tac Toe game. Also, we have a Tic Tac Toe game, and I think I did it in a much more sensible way than I did it when I was practicing this earlier. So yeah, we did it with one component. The component knows nothing about the actual game state. It's just a vessel for us to pour a little bit of data into and an on-click event. At this point, we've done some magic. Does anybody have any questions about what exactly this magic is? Anybody have any questions about how this is working? Like, is there anything I didn't explain particularly well? Go ahead.
If for example, if you are playing and in the middle of the game you refresh,
it's going to go away, unfortunately.
It's going to go away. You can use local storage to save.
Yeah, we could do state. Yeah, honestly, we would do that in this use effect. So our games, our game state is very simple. It will turn into JSON very easily. So we could do session storage or local storage dot set item game state JSON dot stringify game state, and then session storage dot set item x wins O wins ties cool. I'm going to refresh this, click around a little bit, and then hop over to the application tab here and look at session storage. and you can see we have our game state, we have our O wins, our X wins, and our ties. And then what we can do to have this be persistent, relatively persistent, is we can do a use effect. And this is a little bit of magic. Use effect, this second argument is what we're watching for to see, like, when the variable in that array changes, or any variable in that array changes, this use effect will be run. But if we have an empty use effect, then that will only run once when the component is mounted, and we can set game state to session storage dot get item game state, or a new array of length 9 dot fill null. I've got some bugs here for sure. Actually, let's get rid of that. Let's go here and let's look at the console. Game state.map is not a function. Okay. Application. Let's look here. Game state is all null. Oh, I know what's happening. JSON.parse. Well, that's better. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this is going to be set X wins. This is going to break stuff momentarily. So O wins, set ties, X wins, O wins, ties. And I probably need to do that and refresh the page and then look at the console. Set X wins is not defined. Set X wins. Cool. Oh, 1 second. Is that because there's no session storage there? Components, app. Cool. Why is my state not doing that? Let's look at the application. We've got XO null, XO null. X wins should be 1. Oh, I'm doing this at the wrong point there. I need to do this. Let's write a function quickly.
Maybe
Con.
on the click.
1 second. Let's see. Our dehydrate function is going to be here. Let's move that. Okay, then we need to dehydrate our application. Cool. Okay, let's refresh this. Huh. Okay, so what happens if I hop over to the application tab? First of all, let's move that application tab over here. I'm using it a lot. Let's clear out our state. Let's refresh this. I have broken something. Oh. I have broken something because I have my or whatever in the wrong place. Welcome to the wild and woolly world, by the way, of... Hey! Okay. O1 there. This is going to be X. This is going to be O. This is going to be X. I'm really terrible at tying this game. Let's see. Pink, blue, pink, blue, pink. Again, really terrible at tying this game. Okay, so a tie has to be something like one second. Okay, so I'm pink right now. I'm going to have yeah, just one for pink. Let's see if I'm pink here, and then blue here, pink here, blue here, pink here, blue here. Cool. Okay. So yeah, it saves our board state. It saves ooh. We need to dehydrate here. There's probably a more elegant way to do this. Where else would we, or where would we need to dehydrate? Okay, there's definitely bugs, but we are definitely at a point where I'm getting way too in the weeds about this. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions about how this works? About what I did with the session storage stuff? Because honestly, this is kind of magic. Oh, I just figured out a better way to do this too. I could just do that there, and it'll run once on load. Whatever. Cool. Okay, this is not an optimal solution. I'm going to, if there are no questions, let's first get stash, because I didn't work on a new branch. Get branch complete. December 7, 2023. Get checkout. Complete December 7th, 2023. You know what? I'm just going to check it out here and then get stash pop. Cool. Okay. Let's add all my changes. Finished up seminar version. Let's commit this. Let's publish branch to origin. Cool. Okay. So, first of all, if you guys want to check out what I did, you can go to the repo that we started from. There are two different completed versions. There's the complete December 7th, 2023. That's the one that we did today. And there is this completed that I did when I was doing the warm up earlier. So if we hop over to here, you can see that I actually had a slightly different solution.
Yeah. They say 3 days ago.
Yep. Yeah.
I like the local store thing. You don't do that in this solution.
I didn't do that in this solution. The one that I did a few days ago.
I figure out.
But yeah, local storage. It can be a real time sink. Figuring out how to dehydrate your application state. There are some tools. Well, they're tools that I've used at least in like Vue that do a lot of that for you, and there's probably similar tools in React that will handle that nicely. But yeah.
Right. That was a good session, bro.
Thank you. Cool. Okay. On that note, thank you very much for showing up. There's a ton of stuff on the 4Geeks website, 4geeks.com. I'm an instructor for 4Geeks. I teach I teach full stack development, et cetera, et cetera. I will answer any questions for the next couple of minutes, and then I'm going to wander off and make dinner.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. If there aren't any questions, you know, okay. And yeah, see you tomorrow, Scott. Okay, so let's stop recording. You're welcome.